To Rolling Adventures, we've got a special guest today. We've got our main man Ray. I worked the doors with Ray for what? Probably about 8 years, something like that.
I think it was about 4 or 5, mate, yeah. About 4 or 5, mate, yeah.
Long time, known Ray a while. And he was the first proper guest I wanted to get in because his story is incredible. And it links into everything we're trying to do off the gym. So Ray will tell you more about it, but from what I understand, you've had a bit of a troubled past and you've turned your life completely around. And now you spend your life helping people, is that right?
That's correct, in one capacity or another, mate. You know, where would you like me to start, brother?
From the start, where did everything start going wrong, and then how did you bring it back to where you are now?
Yeah. So for me, obviously from working in a professional capacity and work that I've done on myself over the years and stuff like that, I've come to realise that a lot of my sort of actions in later life were down to what they call ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. In a nutshell, trauma.
Yeah.
So, obviously I'm 46, nearly 47, life was a little bit different back then, do you know what I mean? There's a lot more sort of like stringent processes and procedures and all that to protect young people, you know, but back then...
Back then it was fuck all, wasn't it?
No. So when I was a toddler, you know, I ended up going to the care system, you know, I was knocked about as a kid and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? And, you know, off the back of that, you know, life led me down the garden path a little bit, mate. So, obviously I was experiencing going into a children's home, estranged from my family. You know, I had all those abandonment issues. I had all that, like, trying to process my feelings and emotions, which there's no to process my feelings and emotions. There was no...
So when you can't process it, it comes out in violent fits and all the rest of it, doesn't it?
Well, as I say, I didn't have no sort of role models to sort of like put me back into check and stuff like that, and obviously I didn't know how to process my feelings and emotions. So someone who's perhaps bullied to begin with, because it was a little bit different, it was in a kid's home and stuff like that. You hear it time and time again on these podcasts and stuff like that, you know, not in all cases, but often the people who are bullied become the bully, and so on and so forth and stuff like that.
You always find the little shits who come to class who start trying to throw the weight about 9 times out of 10, that's what learned behaviour, what they find at home. So
in most cases,
in most out themselves, it's just learned behaviour, you know what I mean? When a kid comes in and they're effing and blinding, and
they just repeat what you see.
They're just repeating what they see, they don't know
That's
anything
what they're seeing at home, if that's what they're used to, that for them is their normal, and they just carry that on.
Yeah, so as I say, with myself and stuff like that, I always felt a little bit different, so I didn't have the sort of family sort of environment wrapped around me. Lived in a children's home, coming from an area where I was in Liverpool, and then I got moved to Southport, you know, so straight away, I'm different to everybody else, so I'm standing out like a sore thumb. So the battle's begun at such an early age, do you know what I mean? But as I say, there wasn't all these great things like what you and your dad are providing and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? You know, to be fair though, I think what really helped me in the early days when I was in there, I always wanted to go to like karate or whatever, because obviously back then, 80s, 90s and stuff like that, everyone was into like Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme. All that type of stuff, do you know what I mean? And I wanted to go to karate, but they wouldn't allow me to go to karate in this kid's home, so they sent me to judo that I got forced to go to for about 5 years. But to be fair, and the guy who took the class, he's one of the most respected people in that sort of field. Jim Meelan, his name was. So anyone ever does the research, have a look at Jim Meelan. I think we used to be called the Yamato Institute of Judo, and I say I hated going, but now in hindsight as an adult, I'm sort of grateful for that, because it probably got me the chance to sort of release a little bit of pent-up aggression and anger. Not in a way that I'd like to, but it was the best of the bad situations, you know what I mean? But yeah, so while I was in that kid's home and stuff, mate, as I say, you know, you hear it all on the news and stuff, don't you know what I mean? There was lots of stuff that shouldn't have been going on. Bits and pieces, fortunately I wasn't privy to that, you know what I mean, but that stuff did go on. You know, and then I'd say when I was about 12, I was fortunate to go and live with my grandparents. I just seen you again and outside, which was lovely because my nan's like my mum to me. Went to live with my grandparents, but again, I didn't know how to process my feelings and emotions. So when I was in high school, it was 90 to 95, so if any of the viewers...
I was born in 93, so yeah.
Still a young pup, so any of the viewers that are watching, you know, you'll remember the 90s, the early 90s, this is when the rave scene and stuff like that was really coming into fruition and stuff, and you know, I'm a teenager, I'm experimental.
Partying every week.
Again, what I now know was self-medicating, do you know what I mean, to change the way I felt, because I couldn't process all the trauma experiences as a youngster.
Suppressing all your issues with drugs and alcohol. Taylor's all the time. And
Also wanting to fit in, be a part of. I wouldn't say that anyone had to bend my arm behind my back, like, do you know what I mean? But it was,
but sometimes when you grew up lonely and you finally latch onto a group of mates and the only thing they're doing is partying, and you want to feel part of that system, then the only thing you can do to fit in is party with them. So, like, you get kids in there.
You're going to do what you need social circle doing.
Again, though, you know, wasn't one of them where I needed like to find a group of friends to fit. I was always like a popular kid, me, and I think like, you know, what I realised as well, I used to use my sense of humour to sort of combat situations and scenarios, you know, the class clown or someone who's acting the bollocks and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? People will laugh with them, do you know what I mean? And you know, you can hide a little bit under that banner, can't you? Do you know what I mean? So that's always served me well, do you know what I mean?
Clown thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? You're making everyone else laugh to hide your pain.
Definitely true, no true words said, but as I say, you know, it's sort of what you call it. I fitted in by playing up to that part as well, do you know what I mean? But I probably sort of put my own, probably put a lot of my own sort of goals and aspirations by being like that in school, where I could have, like, I'm quite a very bright kid, you know what I mean, but never sort of applied myself, if you like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, but so when I went to high school and all that, you know, while I was in high school and stuff like that, as I say, the rave scene was popular back then, back in the early 90s and stuff like that. I went to school with Jamie Carragher as well. Jamie Carragher, yeah, he was in the year above me. We had Alan Rodgers, who was in our school as well. Alan Rodgers, Nottingham Forest were in the Premier League. This is how old I am. So Nottingham Forest were in the Premier League, like when I was in school. Alan Rodgers, he went to play for Nottingham Forest. Obviously Carragher, when I first started in the school, do you know what I mean, because I come late in the day, do you know what I mean, he wasn't there long before he's gone, you know, he's gone off to like football academy and stuff like that, do you know what I mean, but obviously used to see him around the local area and stuff like that, do you know what I mean, but you know, people like Jamie and people like Alan, do you know what I mean, it was dedication, so they've been dedicated to something. And there was probably people in school who were better football players than them, but they weren't dedicated like these lads were. So what I'm trying to say to the viewers and stuff like that who might be listening is, like, sometimes you might not have all the skills, qualities and attributes to be the best, but dedication will get you where you need to go to. That's a fact. Do you know what I mean?
Commitment to yourself, isn't it? The commitment to yourself and your
hard
training.
Work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
It certainly does, yeah. So
getting yourself into your interest and then committing to it and having a discipline to carry on. That's what gets you through.
Yeah, so I say, went a little bit off track there, but going back to, I was just trying to get you into the pitch of the school I went to. I mean, I went to Salesian, really popular school. While I was at school, as you say, 90 to 95, the rave scene. The reason I mentioned all these was at the time, you know, it'll explain sort of the road I went down a little bit, as I say, because of the rave scene. The age I was experimenting with, like, substances and stuff like that, you know, these trips, cannabis, like a lot of kids do and stuff like that. I'm just trying to get you to trying to put the viewers and trying to, like, put a little bit of a message that, like, you know, you don't have to sit there and do some of the things that I done, do you know what I mean? And
we've all walked them paths, man.
but you know, but these recreational drugs that I was taking to begin with in my early teens, when I was going out clubbing and going to raves and so on and so forth. In later years, they were no longer recreational. Do you know what I mean? It became addiction. You know, where I couldn't sort of
couldn't function without it.
Well, I could stop, but I couldn't stay stopped, mate. That was my thing. I could stop, but I couldn't stay stopped. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it didn't matter what sorts of calamities, like, life threw at me. Do you know what I mean? You know, the likes of yourself and your dad, if someone told you this is what's going to happen if you carry on taking these things, or you carry on doing that, you two would probably have the common sense to go, swerve that, do you know what I mean, and I won't do that again, do you know what I mean? Whereas me, I just didn't have that like filter where I could like process it's not the way forward, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so as I say, I was just giving a little introduction into to how the sort of the addiction side of things come into play, do you know what I mean? So off the back of that, as I say, just trundle along in school, no aspirations, no goals. I mean, you know, I come from, like, you know, where I'm from, it's like the Bronx. I'm originally from Bootle, do you know what I mean? And when I was growing up, people didn't have aspirations and goals to become, you know, policemen, fire, you know, work in the fire service, yada, do you know what I mean? People like myself, I'd be seeing grafters driving past, you know, this is showing me age again, if you drive, well, back then, you know what I mean, it was all like XR3Is and XR2s and all that, you know what I mean, showing me age there, like, but Sierra Cosworths and stuff like that, you know what I mean, and you'd see them all like grafting, making a few quid, you'd have like Dolly Birds in the back of the car and all that, you know what I mean, so young impressionable lads like myself, I'd see these driving past and think,
That's all I want.
I want a little bit of that, you know what I mean? So, you know, I even remember in school, do you know what I mean? This is before like mobile phones were in play and all that. Obviously, watched New Jack City a couple of times, and I used to have this page, yeah, do you know what I mean? To have it like stuck to my belt nose stuck up the part and all that. And the world changed a little bit since then, do you know what I mean? But allegedly was doing a bit of graft, do you know what I mean, in school and stuff like that, do you know what I mean?
Well,
but,
how old was you when you allegedly started your schoolyard graft?
14, 15, but it's ways and means to support your own sort of like nights out, so on and so forth, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
That's usually how it starts for most of them. They're the first in their group to start doing it themselves, so then they start picking up bits for their own mates because they've got the connection, and then before you know it, they're not just supplying their mates, they're supplying a couple of other kids in school, and before you know it, you're 14, 15, and you've got a gaff on the swing 24/7. You're earning more dough than the teachers who are putting it in.
Yeah.
And it's hard like to get out of, because once you're in that mould and you're earning a few quid, you're looking at a teacher who's hardly arsed, who's earning fucking nothing compared to what he should be. So I think, what the fuck are you going to teach me about life? You know what I mean? I don't need to earn fucking Pythagoras' theorem when I'm earning £2 grand a week cash. You know what I mean? Fuck off. The school system now is just not set up to put people into a positive path of life. You know what I mean? When these kids and then the lads who are there with their heads down studying, they're looking across the desk at the little arsehole in the class who's fucking walking around in all brand new gear because they're out after school. It's sending people down the wrong path from a young age, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but as I say, the world was a little bit of a different place then and stuff like that. There was no mobile phones and stuff like that. There was no Ronnie Biggs, do you know what I mean? But it was just like, just teenage childhood stuff, do you know what I mean? Ways and means to sort of make your own smoke or make your own, like, whatever your thing was, do you know what I mean? Your little nights out and stuff. And I used to have this little jag page and that, do you know what I mean? It's trying to get my page number out to the lads. I was only 14, you know, like quite a big kid for my age, and people will be like, I was a page, I'll just knock at your house, you know what I mean? Which is like, back then, that's what it was, do you know what I mean? And the world's gone a little bit, with all this social media and phones and stuff like that, this stuff doesn't happen enough now. We were talking about it just before we come in, weren't we? Do you know what I mean? Connection for me is the biggest thing and stuff like that, do you know what I mean?
As well about people who have had a fucking certain life and have changed it around, like the kids who are looking up to it now, who are starting to see themselves on that path.
Yeah.
Look and think, how the fuck do I get off it? You know what I mean? These conversations open the little branches off either side to say there isn't a way this way, there isn't a way that way. It's not constantly down that way.
I was going to say, kids need to see they've got different options and different ways of doing things. You don't always have to follow the herd, follow the fucking idiots, follow the dickheads, and then have someone either trying to kick your door in or the fucking police down the back of your neck. You don't need that life.
That's why I think it's great, you know, like you two guys, you know, doing like podcasts like you're doing here today and stuff like that, because, you know, the ego will get you killed and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And, you know, in more ways than one. It could be you're going through some personal stuff, you don't really want to talk about it because you feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed. I mean, I didn't know he was my best mate, he was no longer here, do you know what I mean? But my best mate took his own life a couple of years ago and stuff like that because, you know, only he knows the reasons why, but maybe we'd have opened up and like shared where he was at the time a little bit more closer, you know what I mean? Hopefully, you know, we might have been able to shave him, but unfortunately, that's not the case. But hopefully we can, you know, by doing podcasts and stuff like this, we can reach out to people who are struggling. So people are struggling. It's like
one of my mates done the same about 2.5, 3 months ago from Scotland.
Yeah.
Only a young lad, only late 30s, 16-year-old son.
Yeah.
He just took himself out.
Look at the atoms only what the other week as well.
There you go.
People all over the place, you don't know what people are going through, so that's one of the reasons I take mental health so seriously, because one of my best mates when we were kids, say it's 18, 19, is our fella done himself in, and like the stuff we went through with him and how he dealt with it and to where he is now is fucking unbelievable. But at the time, like trying to help him through that as a young kid, didn't know what to do but just wanted to be there for him. Start learning a bit, and then you see other people going through things, and that's one of the reasons I just try to give back. Now that's one of the reasons I pay for therapy for everyone in the gym. And like I said before, we've put that little safe on the counter, and anyone who wants to throw money in to pay for sessions, like it's a community now, everyone comes in and they're throwing all into the safe just to help each other out in the gym, you know what I mean? Even if they don't need the help themselves, then they know the next person needs to train them. We're on the mat, you know what I mean? I've never said this person and name this person's having this session, so everything's anonymous. No one has to feel like, oh fucking hell, I'm this and that, because I need the help. Everyone needs a bit of extra help now again.
It's true. I mean, as you say, it's not a war crime to say that, like, you know, it's okay not to be okay. Yeah. Even going down to the stuff what I'm sharing, he wants to share about like some of the negative sort of episodes that they've experienced in their life and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? But doing this, I'll probably find this quite altruistic, do you know what I mean? Cathartic, if you like, do you know what I mean? I'll probably go home, it's like a therapy session here, just sitting with you, just talking about like some old stuff, do you know what I mean? But
the problem you've got for a lot of fellas is we bottle shit up.
Yeah.
Women will go and just rabbit and talk shite to each other all day long. Fellas, how you doing? Sounds. Yeah. Fucking world could be falling apart. How you alright? Yeah, sounds. That's all you get. It's very rare a fella would actually open up and say, you know what, I need to sort
this out. It takes a pair of bollocks. People think you're weak for opening up. It's the complete opposite. If you've got the bollocks to say to your mate, look, I'm not doing alright here, I need a fucking bit of help. Be surprised how many people come, you know what I mean? Once you put that fucking bat signal up, be surprised how many people come to help, you know what I mean? But having the bollocks to say like, yeah, I need a bit of fucking help here.
But what I've found as well, do you know what I mean, being a little an old shabby now, do you know what I mean, you're half full of identifies, there's always someone that's either gone through what you've gone through, or we know someone who will have gone through what you've gone through. Yeah. And we can either like put you in touch with the right people, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Some of the things that I've experienced in life, do you know what I mean, you know, I probably wouldn't have had to experience them if I had the knowledge and the sort of like insight that I've got now, because there's always someone that can help me overcome these obstacles, do you know what I mean? You know, the obstacles that I've tried to face alone, I haven't done very well at it, and obviously put myself down that dark road and stuff like that, but like, with social media and people like yourself doing these sorts of podcasts and stuff like that, there's always a way out of the situation that you're in, do you know what I mean? It might be a little bit tough, it might be a little bit hard, but you can overcome these obstacles without reverting to crime, using substances, you know, or, you know, at the end of the road, like we just spoke about, do you know what I mean? You know, unfortunately, some people do take their own lives because they can't cope with, like, the pressures of life, do you know what I mean?
Like Paddy said after his fight, I think it was with Jordan Levitt, and he just fucking teabagged Jordan Levitt and got on the mic and was like, look, I'd rather he's come to me, a mate of himself, one of his mates done himself in, didn't he? Yeah. And he said, look, 100%, I'd rather have my mate's fucking tears on my shoulder than I'm in a box on my shoulder, you know what I mean? So you can't talk to your mates about it, lads. Fucking, are they really your mates?
Never mind friends, there's people out there who will sit there, listen, there's loads of support groups out there that people can tap into and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And
that's what we're in the process of setting up here now. So next Tuesday, we've got a mum's morning, the therapist I mentioned before. She's doing a mum's morning downstairs, so it's completely free. We're putting on tea and coffee and toast for the kids and juice and all that. Yeah. And it's going to be completely anonymous, no signing, so any mums who is under anything at all, they can come in and have a free like group session. So
Powerful, that mate.
yeah, so that's just one of the things we're setting up. I've been asked to run a self-defence class by the therapist. She's going to fund this herself for victims of domestic abuse and stuff like that. So we're in the process of setting a lot of things up, but all these plans that we've had for a while I couldn't do while I was working full time for someone else. So now I've got a bit more time, I can put all these things in place that I've been wanting to do for time, because obviously when you're working full time and it's a hard job, you get home, you're tired, you're fucked, you haven't got the energy to put into
spin a few plates, aren't you? You know what I mean?
So that's the challenge. You can't spin too many plates, and the ones you can, you've got to prioritise over what's going to be the most useful for yourself and for others.
It is, and try and create that work-life family balance as well. It's difficult, you know what I mean?
Wife and 2 kids at home.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, so going back, what we were talking about was, so yeah, I was trundling along in school, experimenting. You know, I was a big lad for my age. I was going out back then. He had all like a lot of the views. I remember like Paradox, Kiss.
I used to work there.
Francis used to work there, yeah.
Paradox, yeah.
What was you doing in there, tours?
Fucking no, I was a cocktail barman. I did more money swinging bottles around than we would on the doors.
Poster.
You just stand there doing all that Tom Cruise shit, yeah.
But
many moons ago.
Yeah, so back then, as I say, the nightlife was great. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like now where you're asking for all ID, and you know we've got to pull out all these identification badges. Do you know what I mean? If you had like half a bit of bum fluff on your chin or whatever, you know what I mean? And you know you were in, like, do you know what I mean? And after time, you know, if you knew the draw lads, you were a bit cheeky, you know what I mean? You get them anyway, do you know what I mean? You weren't your arse back then, do you know what I mean? The more patrons in, the more money, do you know what I mean? Well, even then, do you know what I mean? You know, I think we spoke about it before and all that. No disrespect about the draw lads now, do you know what I mean? There's still some tough draw lads out there.
There's still some million draw lads out there, but the percentage of good quality lads compared to where we were when we started is fucking dramatically dropped.
I've seen it through the courses. We do CP and DS top-ups and all that. Some of the people who come in for door courses, you're thinking, no mate, fuck off.
Yeah, but I've worked with a few, do you know what I mean? And you know, just a liability, do you know what I mean? A liability.
Passengers in that game.
We've all been there where you've got hold of someone by the fucking throat, you got another one like that, and you look for your team and they're in the boats.
Yeah.
Where's he going? And you're like, for fuck's sake, you got to deal with a couple of them.
But at that age, as I say, they were always be a drawman back then. You know, these reputations with cards on the playground, you know what I mean? And you know, they were tough fellas, mate. I mean, I've been kicked out and kicked up the arse many times when I was a kid, you know what I mean? Me stripes, like, and yeah, so in school, no real aspirations. I think, like, as I say, the only aspiration I wanted was to go in the army, do you know what I mean? So I wanted to go in the army, and because my dad was in the army, my grandfather was in the army. So that was sort of the road I wanted to go down, and didn't really apply myself in school. It wasn't that I wasn't a bright kid, I just didn't have no sort of drive to sort of like, wasn't academic, do you know what I mean? Even though I've got the academic abilities, which, you know, I'll talk about later on in the podcast, stuff like that, but you know, and I think as well, what I realised as well, do you know what I mean? So when I was in school as well, I'm not about myself personally, but there was lots of lads that had, and girls by the way, lots of sort of ability to do well in life and stuff like that, but there wasn't the speciality skill set to be able to deal with them. I mean, I know we throw a lot of labels on people now, don't they, with ADHD, autism, yada yada yada, but back then there was no sort of insight or like, there was no sort of recognition that you know, you've got to adjust the saddle to suit their rider, because everyone's learning capacity and learning style is different, do you know what I mean? So I might be able to show you something, Connor, and go, and you'd sit there and pick that up, do you know what I mean? Or you might not be like one of them. I might need to show you, or someone might need to shadow like your dad to say, I'll show you how to do it, or watch your dad doing it, do you know what I mean? And then learn that way. So everyone's learning styles was different and stuff like that. So there's loads of people that I went to school with, including myself in a different degree, do you know what I mean? Mine was sort of because I was a little bit wayward, do you know what I mean? You know, and I was sort of, easily distracted, do you know what I mean? I could be sitting there in class and I'd be too busy worrying about what for me to say, you know what I mean? After 10 minutes of like, you know, I haven't got any sort of learning disability or anything like that. It was just more, I need to be engaged in something that I enjoy.
100%, I'm a bit like that. If I enjoy it, I'm straight on to it, I'll give it 110%, but like admin and paperwork and stuff like that, my brain, I just can't get out of bed to fucking do admin and stuff like that. That's why I'm like, I'll just make an AI app that does it all for me, because I can't fucking handle it.
Well, that's the beauty, the time we're in now. We've got AI, ChatGPT and stuff like that, and it's the future, do you know what I mean? But as I say, back then, so in a nutshell, I left school with no qualifications, do you know what I mean? As I say, I had the ability to get really good grades and stuff like that. Did you try going in the army when you left school? Yeah, well, this is what I'm going to get to. So I left school with no qualifications and stuff like that, and I wanted to be in the Marines. Let's apologise. Sorry.
Belter rings on.
I do apologise, sorry.
That's all right,
It'll be the Star Wars one next time, man.
Creating realism here, real life situations and scenarios, yeah. So I tried to go into the Armed Forces when I was 16. I wanted to go in the Marines.
Is that what your dad was in the Marines?
Nah, do you know what I mean? My dad wasn't in the Marines, like, but so as part of the recruitment process and stuff like that, you did have to have sort of like, it was a bit of a shit fucking thing. So there was a kid I went to school with, my boss kid, like, he ends up on his road later on, ends up going down a rocky road, doing great now, like, but so he was already in the army at this point, do you know what I mean? He worked in the recruitment place in town. It used to be in, like, where the Crown Court is and all that. Derby Square, that's it, yeah. So I got down to do my test, and I had like a great relationship with this lad, do you know what I mean? But come up behind me like a knobhead while I'm doing the test, do you know what I mean? Because you had to score, I can't remember, it's called a bad test or something like that, do you know what I mean? It might be wrong with the name of the test. Because he was working in the in that Trafalgar Square, whatever it was called, the Crown Court. He kept coming up behind me, do you know what I mean? You know, he's giving you like multiple choice answers for the questions. He's coming up behind me, pressing it, do you know what I mean? So to get in the Marines, you've got to score a certain like, you've got to score a certain like percentage to be able to sort of go in the Marines, do you know what I mean? Because he kept coming up behind me, but obviously I'm not a grass, do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna go up to them and say, he's just being fucking arsing about, pressing my thing, that's why he's there, because he'd got into trouble for it. But by not getting him into trouble, I fucked myself up, do you know what I mean? Because when it comes to the time to get like the percents that I needed to get in the Marines, I didn't score enough fucking points, do you know what I mean? So they gave you like a list of what you're able to do, so I was like cannon fodder, basically. Do you know what I mean? This is what you can do, you can put a target on your chest and you can just fucking go out and get shots, that's about it, like, you know what I mean? My score was shit, do you know what I mean? And then, yeah, so again, that's advanced all the army stuff, do you know what I mean? So I got through all the process of going, I think it was Litchfield, you had to go to Litchfield, so I got to Litchfield, and stuff like the energy things, there wasn't energy things then, but like drinking cokes and all that, they'll advise against all that because it like bumps up your heart rate and stuff like that. So when I've gone for all my tests, you got on all the hearing tests, all these different tests, do you know what I mean? So you identify, yes, but they done this test, it was just nerves on the day, it was nerves on the day, I was nervous, do you know what I mean? It's my future. So they done this test and said I had a heart murmur, which is just an irregular heartbeat and stuff like that. So that was like, you know, they said, I was gutted, obviously, they got sent home, didn't even get to stay, do you know what I mean? And then, what do you call it? They sent me home and said, go and see your doctor, get the green light of the doctor, say I'm going to have him and come back. So I've done that. This is what I'm talking about, dedication, so I'll revisit that in a sec, do you know what I mean? Which I didn't have at the time. So, went back home to see the doctor, got the green light, no, you haven't got a heart murmur, do you know what I mean? Went all the way back, repeat the process, back to Litchfield again. Same fucking diagnosis, same shite, a heart murmur, do you know what I mean? So what they were saying then was, they were sitting there saying, we'll send you to go and see one of our specialists in London, do you know what I mean? To diagnose whether you've got this heart murmur or not. And if I'd gone to see that specialist in London, I don't think my life would have, I don't think it's unravelled the way it did, do you know what I mean? Where I had to go through some of them dark times and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? You know, basically the dedication wasn't there. I've spat me drum out, threw it in the fucker bucket, and then going back to what I was talking about, this is why, like I mentioned it earlier on, in regards to seeing the lads that hadn't passed in all the boss cars and this, that and the other, and do you know what I mean? I just thought, fuck it, this is where I'm off, this is where I'm off and runs the races and all that, do you know what I mean? And so when I was about 19, we went down to Oxford. This is all allegedly, by the way, this is all allegedly, do you know what I mean? For benefit of the sake.
100%.
So allegedly, went down to Oxford before county lines was a thing, do you know what I mean? And you know, people have got this misconceived idea about Oxford's like, it's like a university town. It was nice, like, what picturesque. But it's got like a bit of a seedy side where you pull the veil back.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite seedy, do you know what I mean? And
all people were told them not to spend it on.
There was a big drug problem in the area, So when I was younger, obviously it goes on today, but it's you know, it's classed as county lines now and stuff like that. But back in the day, Scousers used to be like Bale to Bournemouth, Weymouth, you know, whenever it was and stuff like that. You know what I mean? If you could find a new sort of town where the Scousers hadn't landed, you know, you were in. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so me and my mate at the time, as you say, we went down to Oxford, you know what I mean? And it started off sunshine and rainbows, mate. It started off sunshine and rainbows. You know, making a few quid, doing alright, making a few quid, ended up meeting the girls down there, my eldest lad. Ended up with my eldest lad, he's 26 now, I love it. And you know...
Did she stay based down there or did they come up with it?
No. It was just a short-term relationship, really, do you know what I mean? They still live down at neck of the woods, do you know what I mean? Do you know, like the Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire area, which is just outside of Oxford and stuff like that, yeah. But so I bumped into one day in there, this before, like, he wasn't walking around all security and that, then he was with his family and that, do you know what I mean? And, Richard Branson. Richard Branson, yeah. And I don't know whether he was living down there or he was, as I say, there's a well-to-do area, do you know what I mean? But yeah, he was just walking around like the Oxford Town Centre area with his family and stuff and gone over, like, so give him his due, like, he took the time out to, like, I did get him to shine something, but we lost him and missed the time, that's something, do you know what I mean? This is when, like, he was, as it's a bit more high profile now, do you know what I mean? Even though he was, like, big then, do you know what I mean? But, yeah, so while I was up there, as I say, you know, Grafton, as I say, it was a bit of sunshine and rainbows at the time and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? And,
it's all good when it's going well, once it doesn't.
All good when it was going well and stuff like that, yeah, do you know what I mean? And, yeah, I ended up, as I say, going down Dark Road, taking drugs that I thought I'd never ever take, do you know what I mean? And,
like what?
I'm quite ashamed and embarrassed about it, but it's common knowledge for anyone who knows me and stuff like that, so I ended up on the gear for a little bit, do you know what I mean? And, as you say,
people don't realise how quick you can go from recreational, having a drink, having a line, having a fucking carry. Before you know it, fucking that becomes, you can start chasing it heavier and heavier high because it just becomes pretty natural to you.
Yeah, well, as you say,
is fucking is natural. That's why the time to stop people getting onto the weed so young, because it is a gateway, you know what I mean? I've seen it time and time again through the years and years of door work and partying myself and all that. You don't realise they're fucking, like, how quick it can go from one to the other to the other to the other.
Yeah, as you say, it's you know, it doesn't always happen for everybody. We've got that sort of addictive personality and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And obviously people who are trying to process their own, like, demons, whatever they may be and stuff like that, you know, you can often go through the A to Z of drugs. I mean, as we've been speaking about, I took drugs that I thought I'd never ever take, people that I used to shun, you know what I mean? You know, when I used to be grafting, I used to sit there and, like, when I'd be serving up, you know what I mean? You know, I used to see them terrible. It was my own karma, if you like, you know what I mean? I'd like spit the bag on the floor like that. Yeah, there's the knots, you know, rather than have the respect to, like, give them to them with someone's son, someone's daughter, do you know what I mean? Who knows what they've gone through, but, you know, karma got me and something, you know what I mean? And, as I say, ended up on the bobby and all that for a little while, mate. You know, and then what comes hand in hand in that, do you know what I mean, is the prison system, do you know what I mean? So, you know, I first went to prison in 2019, when I was 19, sorry, and
What was the offence you was after?
Assault, yeah, that was my first, what do you call it, stint in, it was, so Redden at the time, Young Offenders Institutions closed down in 2013 and all that, do you know what I mean, and I'd never experienced like jail before and stuff like that, and so when you know you get on that sweatbox, you're heading down. I was quite excited, to be fair, do you know what I mean? You know, some people hear different things, but to me it was like a bit of a badge of honour, do you know what I mean? I'm embarrassed about it now, but at the time that's the way I was looking at it. It was quite fucking like, you know, it was I was just stupid, you know what I mean? You know, but that was like the sort of mindset I had, you know what I mean? I was quite excited to get there, do you know what I mean? And yeah, it was shit, by the way, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so on the sweatbox is like one of these security transportation vehicles. Yeah. But I've ended up doing like 250 miles on a few occasions from like Liverpool to Oxford. That's fucking hard graft, mate, and you only time for the piss and hard graft, yeah. So I ended up in this jail, and I was the only scouser in the jail. They had one kid, he was from Birkenhead, but they don't know any different, really, do you know what I mean? You know, from out of town, because he sounded like a scouser, they just thought he was a scouser. He was a nice kid, like, he was from the Wirral, do you know what I mean? And I think he'd been nicked with going into Elsa Skelter with loads of Garys, and that's how he'd ended up in there, do you know what I mean? That's the only reason how he'd ended up in there. So I'm in like the part of this kid for a couple of days, and everyone, it's like, because I was grafting as well beforehand, everyone like thought I was still grafting, do you know what I mean? And I was getting all notes under the door, and like, Scousers are at a time, we get sort of, we sort of get a lot of respect, do you know what I mean? That's what I found as well, because it was sort of like, I don't know, they just think Scousers are mad, don't they, do you know what I mean? And like, if you can sort of half hold your own, and you're a decent lad, and you can talk the talk and stuff like that, you sort of get left alone, do you know what I mean? Most of the time. Yeah, so I was in a pad with this kid for a couple of days, and then the screws would come along and said, you know, do you want to go in the pad with another Scouse kid? So I've said, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Thinking it was like, it was a Scouse kid, but lad from Wirral, he's come in and go, no way, bro. You want him in a toe?
I saw the arse. That's the Wirral one.
Do you want him in a toe of the road, bro? No way. But he was a good, all joking aside, he was a good kid, yeah. Yeah, so that was just a little shit shower in the shade, that little short sentence, you know what I mean? You know, got out of there. I was writing all the letters, by the way, before I got out, saying, you know, I'll never ever go back on that, do you know what I mean? I'll never ever do that, because, you know, I'd have passed the lie detector test at the time, because I generally fucking meant what I said, do you know what I mean? But, you know, I got out and all bets were off, do you know what I mean? As you say, about that addictive sort of personality, if you like, do you know what I mean? And when you were talking about gateway drugs and stuff like that, you know, I firmly believe, like you said, around cannabis and stuff like that, sometimes alcohol it is for some people, do you know what I mean? Sometimes alcohol, because if I drink alcohol, it lowers my inhibitions, do you know what I mean? The 300 fat bear that took home in the past, I'll state it. I'm only kidding. Yeah. But what do you call it? Yeah, so it lowers your inhibitions and stuff like that. So when a lot of people are drank, you know what I mean, you know, comes round and out, people they'll end up getting on the Charlie, they'll get, you know, they'll take whatever that they probably wouldn't want to take or said I'm not going to take, you know what I mean, and that was sort of my pathway, you know what I mean, so I do agree with you in the sense that the cannabis stuff is a gateway drug, but also alcohol. I think alcohol is a drug myself as well. One's just wet and one's dry, you know what I mean, it's still like, it's still a devil's drug, mate, you know what I mean?
Still fucking up, like I know a couple of people now who are still going to alcohol bad and they don't touch anything else.
Yeah.
They think that's alright, and it's like, fucking hell, that's bad, you're having a drink at night, but you're a kid rather than down and fucking
one of my best mates, one of our old instructors, drunk himself to death. Yeah. And Simon, years ago, pretty much drank himself to death. Yeah. His idea of a healthy meal was I'll go and get a kebab because you get salad with it. Yeah. And he'd literally drunk himself to death. Yeah. Simon's lads done himself in as well.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
A long time ago. Simon had all kinds going on with his head. Yeah. Tried to do himself in. Yeah. He's done it wrong, I'll show you, he hadn't done it properly. Fucking hell. Wow. So he lost his son.
Yeah, be that.
And he went. So Simon tried to do himself in, I can't remember which one, it was hanging on the tablets or whatever. Another mate of mine, Ian, went to pick him up. So he comes out the car park, Ian's driving, Simon's in the passenger seat. He went, "You're right this way." He went, "You can fuck off." He went, "What do you mean I can fuck off?" He said, "I'm not trusting you. You'll have to pull me out for a fucking wagon or a bus." Just, is that what you do with it with the humour? And he's like, "No, you horrible bastard." He said, "Fuck off." He says, "I'm driving, I'll make sure we're safe." And he got him home. He lasted a couple of years after that, but literally just drunk himself to death.
Heavy, that, isn't it?
Good lad as well, just skin and bones.
Yeah.
That was the end of that, just the alcohol.
But the perception around the alcohol is completely different. If we all three of us went for a meal now,
Yeah.
and I sat and done 10 pints in, you might look and go, "Fuck, he's had one too many," but if I sat there and done fucking 3 bags in at the table, everyone would be looking at me going, "What the fuck's up with you?"
Well, one's socially acceptable, one's not.
Exactly. But they're both just as detrimental in the long term, but people don't look at it like that. They think you have a couple of drinks, or the Mario's doing a bottle of wine in at night. They don't realise how much it's just fucking them completely.
But if you're looking all like sort of low deprived areas and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? Across the country, do you know what I mean? You've got like, you don't have to mention these high class areas. So you go to like, for example, where I'm from, Bootle, for example, do you know what I mean? You've got like a fucking bookies on the corner in there enough every bloody, you know, a certain age. You've got a bookies, you've got an off licence.
And a chippy.
You've got a fucking chippy, do you know what I mean? And what I'm trying to get at is, do you know what I mean? We're just testing to set the self-destruct button, aren't we, when we've got all it. So people are having it like, they're going through the social economic crisis that we're going through at the moment. Some people have got no fucking money, they're struggling to get by on a daily fucking basis. People want to change the way they fucking feel. So you've got like, as I say, you've got the bookies on the corner, you've got the fucking pubs, you've got the off licences and stuff like that, and then you've got about 1 million dealers that all live in a fucking certain age.
It's everywhere though, you know, it's not just like the lower end of the financial situations. When I was on the cabs, I picked a girl, I always remember it. I picked her up on the points behind us on West Derby.
I used to live there, lads.
Nice to see, you know, the points. So they think, "Oh yeah, you're doing well if you're living on the points." Well, not really, because your mortgage up to the eyeballs, your car's on finance, you're probably skint. So I picked this girl up, and it was Arnold's old show, it was exactly his old show, so it was the Emmanuel Church on one Lane. Right, so I picked her up, and we had an AA meeting on there, Alcoholics Anonymous. So I said, "Oh, we had a match like, have you been training?" She went, "Oh no," and I put the 2 figures out. So we're going up to the point. She said, "Do you know where it is?" I said, "Yeah, I know it well." And on her way up, she said, "Yeah, just pull over here." And I think it was the Bennetts. And she ran in the Bennetts and come out with 2 of these little bottles of wine about that big. Jumped the 2 of them outside, put the empty bottles in, and then a mouthful of chewy, got in the car and got home. And I went, "You just went to the AA, haven't you, girl?" And she went, "Just can't handle it, lad." I said, "I cannot handle walking in the house without having a drink in me."
Yeah, experienced that myself, do you know what I mean, first hand, and you know, seen it time and time again with friends, family members, so on and so forth, and stuff like that, yeah. So what we were getting to, we were up to the Oxford sort of stage, we made, so yeah, so my first into prison, as I say, was Red Young Offenders Institution. You know, I'm sending letters home, never going to do that again, I'm going to do this, going to do that, you know. As I say, Jenny mentioned at the time and stuff like that, come out. The reason why we just spoke about the alcohol, because got out, I thought, well, that wasn't my problem, do you know what I mean? You know, I'll just have a few beers and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? But as I say, inhibitions lowered, bump into the wrong company, before you know it, you're back where you fucking started, before you went to prison, do you know what I mean? That's how easy it is, do you know what I mean? Scratching your head, sitting back in the dock again, thinking, what happened there, and you went out for a pint, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happened, mate. You know,
all the time,
yeah. So, but
So when you were back in the dock for the second time, what was that for?
so most of my offences, they were all violent and drug-related offences, and it was like, it was what you call it. It was just ways and means to get more. Do you know what I mean? It was like bullying tactics and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? As I say, I could get away with it a bit more because it wasn't in my own area and stuff like that in Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? You know, these days you don't let someone, you just get smoked, lad, you just be shot. Do you know what I mean? You know, and you know, I have been stabbed on a number of occasions and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But again, that was just down to my fucking behaviour. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, these people who go around thinking that they get, you know, there are cases and stuff like that. Carry on doing that and you see where it'll get you. Do you know what I mean? You know, my experience is, you know, you just end up getting plunged. You just get, you know, you got kids now who've got no fighting ability and all that, but the games are bad, they'll just shoot you. That's the way people are these days, unfortunately. it's a sad state of affairs, but that's the sort of world that we live in now, do you know what I mean? When people just say, yeah, it's $2 grand, go fucking put one in him, do you know what I mean? And people will, do you know what I mean? It's just like, that's
kids as young as fucking 14, 15, killing kids as well. It's fucking scary place.
You know, we come from an area where, you know, people are game kids, mate. People are game kids and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? And this is why it's great, all these sort of initiatives that like you and your dad are going to be bringing forth to the table soon, do you know what I mean? To try and get kids away from all that stuff, do you know what I mean? That's sort of the kind of life, yeah, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so coming out of prison and stuff like that, you know, I was always trying like find ways and means to stop doing what I was doing, do you know what I mean? Because I kept like, I'd always be looking outside of myself trying to blame whatever. Liverpool was the problem, my child was the problem, this was the problem, that was the problem, you're the problem.
Not taking responsibility for your own actions, type of thing.
Well, instead of sort of like doing some work on myself and realising I was the problem, addressing like, you know, the issues at hand, i.e. doing some work on myself.
Yeah.
I'd always like do what they call geographicals, as I say, moving around. So I've moved around all over the country over the years and stuff like that, whether it be Oxford, fucking Newcastle, fucking Cambridge, yada yada yada, do you know what I mean? But I'd be doing all that, trying to escape. I was trying to escape, I was trying to run away from the problems unbeknown. I was taking the problem with me, which was me. Do you know what I mean? And as I say, I've been to about 5 different prisons and stuff like that across the country and stuff like that. And some of them was a revolving door. It was a revolving door. I might as well have just left me stuff in your part and said I'll be back in a couple of months, keep hold of that.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't what I was set out to do. It become a place of sanctuary almost, if you like, do you know what I mean? Because I'd go to,
comfortable in there,
well, I'd go to jail, I'd see people that I'd known and had done jail with over the years and stuff like that, and it'd always be the same sort of people. You'd obviously get a few like newcomers and a few like people that you didn't know, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But predominantly they'd just be the same old faces, do you know what I mean? You know, time and time again and stuff like that. Or there'd be like people still serving a sentence that from like when you were last, because some people get like life and years and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And yeah, so as I say, it was in and out all the time for violence, drug-related offences, and as I say, it was all tied into the addiction side of things and stuff like that. Once he addressed that, you know, I haven't sort of committed a criminal offence now for nearly like 19, 20 years.
Well, what was the turning point that made you get sober?
So the turning point for myself was I nearly died. Sometimes pain's a great motivator for change, isn't it? So whatever that pain looks like, you know, the sensible man will learn from people's mistakes. I'm one of those guys who used to like put my hand in the fire to see if it was hot, even though you just told me it was hot. Do you know what I mean? I sort of need to experience that myself. But as I say, pain is a great motivator for change and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? You know, we've had to go into the war story a little bit. I've tried to leave some of the war story out a little bit really, because I don't really want to glamorise fucking crime really, you know. See it all the time on these podcasts and stuff like that. Some of these people that are on these podcasts, by the way, I know a few of them, and they talk shite. Some of the stuff, they don't let their, as Chopper Reed said, they don't like letting the truth get in the way of a good yarn. Take from that what you will, do you know what I mean? In other words, half them talk shite. So what do you call it? The straw that broke the camel's back. I nearly died. So I nearly died. I was grafting, allegedly again, in Weymouth. I was grafting in Weymouth. And as I say, there was no what do you call it, airs and graces. It was just ways and means to support my own drug habits. Do you know what I mean? And what do you call it? You know, at the time, I used to always be walking around with a kind of bloody fucking lager or whatever shalateen to my hand, do you know what I mean, as well as like using substances. So your body's like a car, you know that yourself, your body's like a car, you've got to look after it, you've got to put the right fuel in it, you've got to put it through the little MOTs, and you know, you've got to keep it in good condition or it'll break down. That's what ended up happening to myself, do you know what I mean? When I was younger, I might have been able to get away with like leading these sort of lifestyles. So I wasn't eating right, smoking ciggies, drinking alcohol, taking substances. In the end, I had also start perforated, which caused peritonitis, which like basically burst inside myself, do you know what I mean? It's like where it's like poison your body from the inside out.
Yeah, like sepsis.
It's basically in a nutshell, yeah. So, you know, if I hadn't got a change, it'd been dead in 24 hours, mate. So, yeah.
Like the kick up your arse you needed to say, like,
Well, I'd already started getting the ball rolling before all of that, but I sort of jumped the queue a little bit because of all of that. I wanted to go into detox, I wanted to go into a rehabilitation treatment centre to do some work on myself, because what I was doing wasn't really working. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, before I got to this, I had tried, as I say, I had tried on several occasions to sort my life out, i.e. rehabs and stuff like that. I used to be a bit of a season ticket holder, you know, when I mean by that, I was just in and out, do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to get at is just because someone doesn't succeed first time round, don't give up, do you know what I mean? Just keep trying, do you know what I mean?
Now I'm a fucking serial failed entrepreneur, I was telling him the other day. I've had about, 10 businesses that I've tried and failed, and I was just like, oh well, fuck it, on to the next thing then. Because if you let it get you down, you're fucked, but if you learn from the experience, you go, okay, why didn't that work? Okay, because of X, Y and Z, I've learned the lesson from that, I won't do that again, so I'll put that into the next one. And then before you know it, I'm ready to go again.
But if you look at any like high flying entrepreneurs, not all, but most, do you know what I mean?
Most learn from the pain.
Well, most of them have been many failed businesses, do you know what I mean? Bankruptcy, yada.
I hadn't gone through all that bullshit that I've been through, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now to fucking help the people I'm helping.
Well, like you just said, you know, you kind of hope that you start learning from your mistakes, don't you? And like, what did I do last time? I can do differently this time. And that's exactly like what I done in regards to the recovery stuff. So it was like, what did I do last time that I can change this time? So all those failed attempts that I kept having, do you know what I mean? Although at the time, you know what I mean, I felt the world was going to end because it's just like, you know, I just felt like a failure, you know what I mean? Why do I keep sort of ending up in this place? Because it's like I build a house, I start creating this sort of like life that I want to live, and then I pull the bricks on top of myself, and then just sit there scratching my head thinking, you know, how that happens again, do you know what I mean? And yeah, as I say, so when I got to the point of we're just being short about when an early died and stuff like that, this is how powerful the powerful addiction is. So even like that, I'm walking around with fucking walking sticks and everything, and I'm still sort of like fucking running around, waving it, allegedly, grafting, trying to like sell bits and bobs and that, do you know what I mean? And I just got to the point like when I just knew this couldn't continue. So you know, I chased up like some of the referrals and some of the legwork I'd already put in to go to the detox unit. Explain my circumstance, and I'd already got the ball rolling for like rehab and all that before, and there's waiting lists because of all like the culminating factors we've just been speaking about. It's sort of bumped me around at the top of the list, you know what I mean? So I managed to, by the grace of God, get into a detox unit, you know what I mean? And you know, I've been used to going to these detox units and probably having it too cushy, to be honest with you, mate. You know, because I'm like, you know, I forget where water wouldn't, you know what I mean? So I went to this detox unit, and you know, a lot of people might know a little, won't mention the names, you know what I mean, but the detox unit there off Smith's Arm Road and stuff like that, you know what I mean, but it was hard going, mate, it was heavy, it was tough, do you know what I mean, but I think I needed that, I think I needed it, I think I needed to go through that one, do you know what I mean, you know, I've got people that I know who's been to detox in the pride and they've been in there, but all like, you know, people aren't stone noses and this, that and the other, do you know what I mean, I'm just in there with fucking, you know, all the local bloody heroes from your estate, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, so I went through that, and then what I done differently was, instead of going home from the detox unit, I got picked up on the day that I was used to be released, and ended up going through, I'd never ever done a 12-step recovery program, and I ended up going through a 12-step recovery program in a rehab, do you know what I mean? It's no longer in fruition now, like, but half you, it's, you know, saved a lot of lives and it saved mine, do you know what I mean? You know, I went into this, and it was going back to what we were talking about before. It was about like looking at myself and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? Rather than like looking outside the box, it was like trying to do like the inside work, do you know what I mean? It was like looking at all different things in regards to you know, looking at my side of things, and you know, I was just unraveling a lot of stuff, do you know what I mean? And you know, that process, it goes on for time, do you know what I mean? And
how long is that process overall?
Well, Well, the
Or
process,
is it different for every person?
it's gonna be different for every person. You know, I'm on about like the process. What I meant by the process, I don't mean just like the time that you reside at, like the actual like treatment centre. Do you know what I mean? You know, because it's also for courses. There's usually like a blanket sort of period of time that you'll go into them. You know, because I've worked in residential treatment centres later on in life. But I'm talking about the whole journey of recovery as a whole. Do you know what I mean? Because when I come out of that addiction side of things, I just felt like a newborn. Felt like a newborn, do you know what I mean? Felt dead vulnerable. Felt dead sort of, self-esteem on the floor, confidence on the floor, but I'd mask it with ego, do you know what I mean? You know, like, as people do, do you know what I mean? As if I'm alright, I'm all, good you know, mate, my parents are age, all that shite. But but that journey, like, to work on myself, that journey of exploration, like, I wish I could say that, like, from that moment on, that I stayed clean and sober and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? That wasn't my journey, do you know what I mean? You know, I'd had more clean time than I'd ever had before. I'd get like a few months, and then I'd have like a little bit of a slip going out on the ale or whatever on the Charlie. But eventually the fucking penny dropped, you know what I mean? And I just fucking stuck it out, and it's been like 11 years nearly now, and since nearly 11 years now since I've gone down that road, like, but yeah, the story of redemption was, so all the stuff that like I'd done in addiction and in my early years and stuff like that, and all the experiences I've been through, it's weird to call it God, call it divine intervention, call it the universe, whatever label you want to put on something beyond your comprehension, higher power. I've been pushed in loads of different directions throughout my life, you know, since I've turned my life around to help others. You know, worked in residential treatment centres and stuff like that, worked in 2 residential treatment centres. You know, I've spoken about this to you before and stuff like that. One of the prisons that I'd served 3 sentences and ended up working there for 5 years.
You're helping what? Am I right in thinking you were helping lads who were coming out of jail, get into work and rehabilitate themselves into society?
Well, what it was, so there was 2 parts to the role. So the reason why myself and the lads who was working with, do you know what I mean, used to make a bit of a difference, because I think the lived experience is, I'm not saying people who haven't had that lived experience, I'm not saying that they haven't got anything strong to bring to the table, they certainly have.
It's far better than theoretical knowledge.
But theoretical knowledge as well as lived experience, it's priceless, you can't put a price on it, do you know what I mean? So if I want to learn how to be a mechanic, then I'm going to ask a mechanic how to fucking do like certain things that I need to learn, do you know what I mean? You know, so someone who's been there and wore the t-shirt, they're going to have a little bit of insight and sort of knowledge and experience around, like, you know, how to sort of navigate that situation, so hopefully not like keep repeating the same mistakes and stuff like that. So yeah, as I say, I worked in there for 5 years on and off, do you know what I mean? There's a period of time when I left, went for other jobs, but I just enjoyed it all and ended up sort of going back to it. So there was 2 parts to it all. There was, so I worked, so the living programmes in a classroom setting, and ironically around behavioural change and alcohol and substance misuse again, like we've just been speaking of. The best person to sort of help people with that behavioural change or address alcohol and substance misuse is people who've been there and lived that life, do you know what I mean? And it carried a lot of weight and depth, do you know what I mean? Because I've done it before myself.
It carries weight with the people, because you're not just bringing someone in who's never lived it, never experienced it. You can be a living example of, this is what I've done, this is what I've come through, and this is where I am now, and you can do the same, because I was in the exact same position that you're in. Yeah. So look what I can, if I can do it, you can do it.
But also, people are going to relate to your experiences, because if you've never been in that situation, you can't explain it, because you can say, okay, we've all been there, we've all felt this, we've all seen that, we've all heard that, haven't we? All go, yeah, so right, this is how you get from here and back up to there. Yeah. Because you've got that experience.
And you're living proof that the system's worked.
It's the same as yourselves in here, isn't it? You've got loads of like, you know, boss guys in here who've walked the walk with the fighting game yourself, do you know what I mean? You've been on the cobbles out there, mate, I've seen what you're about and stuff like that, and you know, it's not necessarily a badge of honour, but what I'm saying is you've been there, you know, so many kids have saying, well, how do you fucking know, do you know what I mean? You know, I've worked on fucking Liverpool City Centre doors for fucking X amount of years, do you know what I mean? I've earned my fucking stripes, do you know what I mean? So, like, you know, no one's going to let you tap out on the fucking cobbles in town, do you know what I mean? So I know what I'm talking about, mate. Do you know what I mean? So it's the same fucking thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so I felt like myself and the team that I worked alongside, we made like a bit of a real difference and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And you know, built some great relationships with not only staff who used to like sort of back in the day. They'd ask me to that prison officer. Con mentality. I wouldn't have asked them for a bog roll back in the day, do you know what I mean? But I got to see the other side of, like, you know, not all, you know, you still get some who are rats, do you know what I mean? But they get that in all jobs and all professions, don't you? But I met some prison officers who were genuinely, like, cared about, like, making a difference and helping people, do you know what I mean? Small percentage, but there was, do you know what I mean? And, you know, and I met some characters in there myself, like while I was working in the jail system, like, do you know what I mean? And yeah, I remember walking around the yards with walking around the yards for about an hour with no Jordan McCann, the rapper, walking around the yard, was walking around the yards with him, and that's Sam Walker and that, walking around the yard with them for about an hour, having a little chat to them and all that, do you know what I mean? And you know, I was saying to Jordan, do you know what I mean? You know, you've fucking done well, you made it now, lad, do you know what I mean? Just,
Seems
you know,
well with the rap game now as well.
Well, I said to him, you know, I was saying, you know, rap about it, don't fucking live it now, you know what I mean? Keep your feet out the fish shop, basically. It's like, but he seems to be flying me. Yeah, it's good to see me because it doesn't have to be the pat. And I bumped into that Mazda L20 not so long ago as well. I was speaking to him. Ironically, he went to school across the road from me.
That's the thing I like about what he's done, because all the time he was in jail, he's rapping about jail shit and cutting people up and he went to jail for guns and that, but since he's come out, a lot of it's changed, a lot of it's about him trying to turn his life around, how he's trying to be a dad, how he's trying to be there for his wife, and like the relationships that have broken down over the years. So he's I haven't listened to all his new stuff, but most of the new stuff I have listened to, he's like trying to move away from that gang life. Obviously when you blow up as a rapper, people expect a certain type of music from you, so your core audience expects certain things, but he's starting to move away from that, and he's starting to do like, one of them was his letter to his son saying like, I fucked up this whole part of my life because of doing X, Y and Z, but I'm not going to let you go down that path. I'm going to be doing this and this for you and stuff like that. And he seems to, since he's come out, try and go down a different path. He's working with Kirby ABC, is it? Or Tower ABC. I noticed he's doing videos like promoting them, saying look, get off the streets, get into boxing and stuff like that. So it's fucking brilliant to see the people who have been down that path coming out and like trying to help people who are on that path coming down it. You know,
he's dead down to it, lad, as well. Do you know what I mean? He always from my area, didn't actually like know more or anything beforehand, do you know what I mean? But I bumped into him on the way home from work, and I work up like the Southport Basco ways, do you know what I mean? And like I always stop off the garage on the way and like, oh no, I'm scared. Like that, and I have to fill me fuel, like that, like looking behind me. You imagine? When I started talking to him, he was like dead down to it, do you know what I mean? And you know, he was saying from bars and all that, you know, like telling me that he used to go to Hillside school across the road from where I'm from and all that. And
Hillside on the corner by the
by the mountains, lads, that's where he went to school, lads, and you know, I was just saying, you know, proud of everything that you're doing, so you're coming out, like, turning your life around and stuff like that. And he said, nice one and all. I just said, like, what are you doing there? And he said, you know, getting the gaff out the way, again, what you talking about, getting away from all the drama, fresh starts, you know what I mean? And but even just taking the time out, do you know what I mean? To like, he didn't have to stop and talk to me, do you know what I mean? He could have just, you know, because you do get like, knobheads who just egotistical, who just go like that. Do you know what I mean? But he took the time out to have a little chat to me for 5 minutes and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? But yeah, fair play to him, and these are like people that like...
But these are also the ones the kids are looking up to.
Exactly, and it shows people that, you know, you can lead a certain life, but you can come away from that life and do something better with your life. But if you've got any common sense and you're using this to, you know, learn from other people's mistakes and don't make them mistakes in the first place and do something positive. I think that's the key message really that we're trying to sort of get out today. Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a story of redemption. It can be, you've got 2 avenues, you've got a crossroad, you can go one way or you can go the other. Fast forward the video, say when you go down crime, they say crime doesn't pay. it might do for a fucking small period of time, but the dividends at the end are usually, I know, because I'll get to it, I'll talk about it in a minute and stuff like that. So when I was working in the prison system, some of the lads that I've been mates with and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like the you know, Nick Dolan and the Encroach chat, I've just got a mate there, he's got 35 years. 35 years, so all his millions that he's got stashed away, do you know what I mean? What good's that to you when you're doing fucking 35 years, mate? Met some lads that are new, do you know what I mean? You know, before they were in the prison system, and like, some of them never done a day jail in their life, do you know what I mean? They said, how long are you looking at? Like 24 years. Again, for the Encroach chat, and this is with drugs, mate. Do you know what I mean? So as well as the violent stuff where you could get lights off, you could hit someone, like, when you hit someone once, you could kill them, do you know what I mean? You know, all these gangs and gun culture and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? They're just all rotting away in jail, and you hear all these people talking about, yeah, there's prison standing on your head. Can you? Do you know what I mean? You know, I've seen some fucking tough fellas, I won't say the names, I wouldn't embarrass them and all that, but I've seen them like fucking shadow the former cells walking down the prison fucking yards, mate. Or you see them when they're down, like, getting upset in the prison and all that. These are all these so-called big fucking gangsters and all that, do you know what I mean? But obviously I wouldn't say the name and embarrass them and stuff like that, but that's the reality of jail. It's not all like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Well, all prisons are different and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? But, you know, prison's a scary place at times. There's times when I was in that fucking boat, mate, and you know, even though it was a category B prison at the time, it was like a cat A, mate. People are getting slashed all the time, do you know what I mean? And you know, if you've got the money and you've got the means and all that, I could sit there and say beef with you, do you know what I mean? And you were on another wing, I could just go and pay someone, just throw 2 knots on Connor's head there, and someone will just fucking go and strike you, lad. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's like, mate. It's a scary place, you know what I mean? It's a scary place. I've seen it in there when I was working in there over the years and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Just lads just getting shattered, mate. And you know, if that's what you want for your life and that's what you want your day-to-day basis, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year and all that, then so be it, mate. But you know, it's not a nice environment and stuff like that, and there's some fucking tough, scary kids in there, mate. Some tough, scary kids. I'm not a stinking bar, I know you're saying, you know. But there was a few kids over the years that I bumped to in the prison, I thought, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Fuck that, lad. Do you know what I mean? Caught him in bed with your bag, you took him in. Do you know what I mean?
Do you need a drink, lad, yeah?
Yeah, but as I say, part of the job role I was doing in the prison, as I say, was delivering programmes around behavioural change and alcohol and substance misuse, and what do you call it? We got some really good outcomes from that, do you know what I mean? And but as part of that, it's great doing all the work in the prison with people and stuff like that, but it's after the fact. So when people get out the gates, it's no good just waving them off and saying best of luck and luck. So people have got no sort of support networks on the out. They don't know where any of these like support groups or any of these like, you know, they might need to be relocated to another area for a fresh start, whatever it may be and stuff like that. Myself and lads that I've worked with, we used to play like an integral part, you know, where like bridge the gap if you like into like that bridge from like prison life to fucking community life and stuff like that. Because so we used to, and there was no time frame. There was no time frame of like, you know, cut off point where we'd say, you know, you've had your bloody fucking 12 weeks now, you've got a sort of battle. There was no time frame. Someone continuously wants that help. You know, we'd offer that for as long as they fucking wanted to offer it. So we used to just, you know, if anyone needs that, people wanted to like mutual aid groups, which could be like the NA meetings, the AA meetings, CA meetings, or any other sort of recovery pathway. We'd try and tap them into that. They could, like, we might want help with employment, training opportunities. I mean, there's loads out there. You've got Johnny Byrne, there's all stuff now, haven't you, with what do you call it, inside connections and stuff like that. He does all great stuff. There's loads of people out there that you can tap into to get lads integrated into the community and stuff like that, to put them on a level playing field and stuff like that. And yeah, I say we had lots of successes and stuff like that. We had lots of that just fell by the wayside, but unfortunately that was their journey. You know, we did make a bit of a difference. I had some work published as well. It was part order. The work that we done during COVID, do you know what I mean? Done some work, like myself and a few of my colleagues, like part orders of this manuscript that was published, yeah, do you know what I mean? The International Journal of forensic criminology or something like that. It's, I wouldn't know the full title, you know what I mean? But that's somewhere published and stuff like that, yeah. But in a professional capacity now, I was actually manager now in Ofsted Registered Children's Home. Before, when I was talking about qualifications, I left school with no qualifications. All they had for me CV at one time was charge sheets. You know,
So where you've come from to where you are now.
I've near enough completed me, what do you call it, my MBQ level 5, which is, you know, for young persons with families manager for obviously the environment that I work in and stuff like that. And,
did you try and go into care work because you've been in the care system and you thought you could help out, or
do you know what, mate?
Kind of a natural progression?
Do you know what, mate? Again, it was like, it was again what I was talking about before. It was, I had deliberately set out to go into these roles. I've had loads like service manager roles and manager roles. I'm just sure that I've been a deputy manager role at the minute. Like, cause when you're a manager, when well, it's not just, well, it's that as well. But like, if the shit hits the fan, the ball's up at your feet and you're half of his feet. Do you know what I mean? Because like usually the owners of the gaff. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes, like, you know, I like to share the shit.
Exactly, yeah.
You can have half the log and I'll have half the log, do you know what I mean? You know, so in the future that's definitely the goal, and that's, you know what I mean, to get back into it, to that sort of, but I'm quite happy in the deputy position I'm in at the moment. As I say, I'm near enough finished my level 5, which is the equivalent to a second year undergraduate degree, by the way. There's someone before, like I'm sure, it wasn't that I didn't have the ability to progress and sort of do well with the academics. I just didn't have the motivation, or maybe I didn't have the right sort of mentors, role models, whatever label you want to put on it around me at the time. Or I think it was probably just more unwilling, do you know what I mean? You know, I was just on that path, I feel like. But
if you hadn't gone down that path, you wouldn't be where you are now, so
I certainly wouldn't. So, but when I come into recovery and turned my life around, all I had to, I didn't have a pot of piss in them and throw it out of me, do you know what I mean? I know it's not about materialistic things and stuff like that, but like, I own my own house, car, good fucking job, qualifications under my belt, you know, these, and it's never too late. I mean, I didn't turn my life back now until I was like 34/35 and stuff like that, so it doesn't matter how far people get along on that journey and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? It's never too late to sort of like do
one of the main
something.
reasons I wanted you in, because people will see this and think, fucking hell, if he can do it after what he's been through and where he was at.
It's the decision as well. Yeah. If once you make that decision to change, then there's nothing stopping you. Once you've reached the bottom of the barrel, we've all been there, got to the bottom of the barrel, carry on fucking digging.
Yeah.
And then you'll find that you got to that one day, what the fucking hell am I doing here? Why am I doing this for? I'm worth more than this. I can do more than this. I can be more than this. Once you make that decision to change, start moving forward.
Well, it's me talking about, like, I was lower than a snake's belly. I was walking around like one of the cast of Thriller, mate. So I can go from that, from like 0 to hero, then it's possible. I don't mean, I just mean that in the context is you can turn your life around. You can go from like lower than a snake's belly to being a productive member of society. Do you know what I mean? I was ostracised. I was like a social fucking pariah. I was like a social leper. My family didn't want to know me because for their self-preservation, the way it was. You know, got all my family back in my life and stuff like that. I've got some beautiful kids in my life and stuff, and partner, so on and so forth. Good friends around me and stuff like that, you know what I mean? It's all there on offer for people, isn't it? You know what I mean? So, you know, as I say, just for the views, you know, you can go one way in life or you can go the other. Any advice and guidance can give you that, like, sort of pearly words of wisdom and stuff like that. It's just don't follow the crowd, just, you know, go on your own path. Listen to, you know, some of these old school people who give you advice, listen to it. Do you know what I mean? They're not saying it for the benefit of the tape. Do you know what I mean? They're sitting there because they want, you know, they've been there, they've wore the t-shirt, trying to prevent you from making mistakes like they've made themselves and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And tap into stuff like this, you know, in MMA. It's like, you know, brilliant stuff. Get you off the streets, get you fit, get you healthy, get you disciplined, meet some great friends, you know. It's all positive stuff, mate.
That's what it's all about, and I think that's a fucking perfect way to end. I'd love to do a round 2 of you before it.
Well, me, yeah. Thanks very much for asking me coming in.
Because I don't want to go too far and run out of space or thing on the camera, you know what I mean? So I think that's
what is the main one for that.
So I think that's a perfect way to end it. Ray, thank you very much for
Thanks
coming.
very much, mate. Thank you, mate.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much, mate. Thank you, mate.
We'll definitely get you booked in for the round 2.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
That was fucking brilliant.
I've never done one before. You struggle, you sort of backtrack, don't you, and peddling.
Yeah.
I was trying to leave out the more stories.